Alright, I think it's time to get started. Greetings and salutations. Doing a hand cam stream today, so no facial motion because I only have the one camera set up. So, there we go. Uh, I'm gonna go over to my format because I'm gonna talk more about what I'm doing, but I want to use. You see my mouse? Or is it just hovering things? Looks like you can't see my mouse. You can kind of see the thingy. Anyway, so yeah, I'm doing a conversion for a bunch of Terminators that I'm planning to use to proxy the Ravener kill team. I'm just using the ones from the Space Marines Combat Patrol. So it's these updated scale Terminators that are a little fixed in scale, but I realized they're all 40 mil bases, so you can use them to play Raveners. And I think thematically it'd be pretty cool, like teleportation homers in place of the tunnel markers. The idea of these big tough guys with just lots of wounds, I think they match up pretty well as an idea. So the plan is, first off, the Ravener Prime, I'm going to use the Terminator Librarian, which came in that box. And I've actually separately, I'm painting it on my own. Uh, I'll pull it out later, but I won't be working on it tonight on stream. But the idea is the uh, the Terminator is going to be the Ravener. The Librarian is going to be the Ravener Prime. It's about an inch shorter than the Ravener Prime, so I made a little thing for him to stand on that makes him taller, and that it kind of also works on the Raveners because they just got this big slender part. You can't see my mouse, but they kind of got this big slender part on top of the little Kragnos rock they're slithered upon. So it doesn't matter if they're a little slender towards the base, but I think in the end they probably at least the Librarian will be a significantly bigger profile than the Prime. So I just have to do that 1 inch thing. You can see my mouse. Okay, can I get rid of these? There's got to be a setting for like clearing these. Whatever. Nope. Okay. So our next challenging one is, this is not nearly as tall as the Ravener Prime, but the Venom Scythe is a little bit taller than the other ones, just because he's like reaching up to strike. So I'm gonna kind of have it mirrored on the Terminator Sergeant, and to represent the poison, I'm gonna put green stuff flames on him, because they're pretty. Fire and poison are usually pretty similar in terms of games. They both do like a DOT. They both tend to apply like a little debuff, that sort of thing. So I'm gonna put some like fire effects on the Terminator Sergeant. I'm gonna model his arm so that it's like up in a striking position, kind of like the it's the Fell Talon. Sorry, not the Venom Talon. But yeah, just so that it looks more like the Fell Talon, and then I'll put him on a small Kragnos rock just to make him a tiny bit taller. Like, he doesn't need to be that much bigger. This is like, yeah, 10 mil, right? This is not a huge height difference between heads. I'm probably not going to do that one tonight because it requires green stuff, and I just don't have the green stuff up here. It's a little hard to work with, especially with gloves on. It's a little more complex, so I'm not going to start there. Ah! Why is... Okay. So then next up is the Tremor Scythe, which I'm going to take this Terminator and I'm going to put a hood on him using green stuff and maybe a cloak as well. Because that'll make him kind of look sneaky, which is kind of what the Tremor Scythe is. Like, the Tremor Scythe doesn't really show its rules very well through its model, but I think just making it look sneaky. That's how I'll do that. The next one, for the Wrecker, I forget their names, so I have to hover over for a sec. The Wrecker, I'm going to make a like veteran Terminator. So I'm gonna paint his arms silver like he's in the Death Watch. And then I'm thinking about trying to get a like chain fist. I put out a thing in my local scene, but I couldn't find one. So I might just have to do like a model the chain fist myself kind of thing. Because that kind of fits with the anti-tank theme. And then the veterans and kill team generally have like a small damage reduction thing, which is what the Wrecker has as well. So I think that'll work. This one's a bit more of a stretch. The Gunner for the Venom Spitter. It kind of makes sense. They're the shooty one of the team, so that's why. Ideally, I would use, I think, a heavy flamer, because again, fire and poison are kind of harmonious, and also the flamer makes more sense with the reduced range. But the start collecting box only comes with the rotary cannon, so that's what I'm gonna do. That one doesn't require any special modeling, so that one I might do tonight. And then lastly, with the 5th Terminator in the squad, I'm just gonna make him into a regular warrior. You never need the warrior when you play Raveners. At least that's what the Raveners players say. You don't really want the regular warrior, but it's the basic one, and I have a spare Terminator, so might as well start there. Oh yeah, other than Big Mr. This guy probably needs a bigger Kragnos Rock with the arm upheld. This guy maybe needs a small Kragnos Rock. A slightly bigger Kragnos Rock. These two are about the same height. He can maybe do with a small rock to just boost him up. And he needs a really small rock. So it's pretty, I think it's pretty, this will be pretty easy to do. Gonna turn on the hand cam now and turn off the window. So it's the model board. And I'm gonna get started with the instructions. They do not show super well on camera. So we want Mr. Arm Up, Shooty, Arm Down. I think is the 5th member of the squad. Nope, the last one's Mr. Rotary Gunner. Yep, this is step 5 is what we're looking for. I think this step 5 Terminator is going to be our basic warrior, which is where I'm going to start. I've never built a Terminator before. I build, and I've built a bunch of Space Marines. I do my own chapter, which has a color scheme similar to my model, but my VTuber model, but I'm also probably going to go shorter for today, maybe just an hour, because these screens are going to be a little more irregular, and they're a little more of a pain to set up and everything. Oh no. Okay, it looks like that was the start of step 5. And I'll see how I think about these streams, because I might not even do any more at all. I just thought it might be nice to try this. I don't think this is sprucey. Oh hey, you know what would really help? If I turned on my light that I turned off because I didn't like it was too bright in my face. Here we go. This is not sprucey, I don't think. Consult the instructions. No, it is sprucey, because sprucey here, split between the fat, is just the Terminators. It's the fat and the small one. So I need 19 and 20. Which don't look like they're on this one. Some nippers here. This is a little close up, I'm now noticing. Yeah, I can't really do anything about that. I'm just using a self-made pivot on my camera. So I'm trying, but you know. I forgot to get the base for the teleportation Homer. Which, because it's kill team, is just going to be a 25 or 20 mil base for the token. And then I might put that on top of the 25 mil that I'm pretty sure kill team uses. Or not kill team, but the normal model needs. Yeah. Right here, 25 mil base. Anyway. So we want parts 19 and 20. These gloves are uncomfortably hot. Oh yeah, these are push fits, but I am going to be using plastic glue, and because I want to be changing some of the poses. Here we go. Okay. First two pieces cut out. Move the sprue and the nippers over there. Now I get the hobby knife. And I'm going to whittle away at the parts I cut from. This is a lot harder with gloves on. Whoa. Yeah, that was a much deeper cut than I wanted. It's a lot harder to control. There we go. And unlike like Gundam models, we don't really need to sand them too much because we can just cover it up with paint. It's like I'm not too concerned that this isn't perfectly flat and that you can see little scratch marks, because I just know it'll get covered up with paint later. This, on the other hand, won't. So I have to be careful not to do that kind of big thing. These require a little more force because I didn't snip as close to the base of the plastic as I could have. Otherwise, yeah, this is just simple, relaxing. Cutting away at the plastic. I think this piece is good. On to the next one. Ooh, this is gonna suck. That one I've got a big piece to the point where I might even bring the nippers back in just to get it closer down. In fact, that's just what I'm gonna do. There we go. This is a much more whittleable thing now. You don't want to cut too close with the nippers. but you don't want to cut not like too far because then it becomes impossible to whittle it down. Sometimes it can be hard to see, like with this piece, if I've whittled it properly. Wow, my webcam proper quality is not nice enough to really show this very well. But I hope you can kind of see. Let me see if I can do anything. Figure video. I don't really know anything about manual cameras. So I don't really know what I can do. Well, it's not like I'm doing a tutorial for how do you do these. I'm basically just chatting over me doing the hobbying, so probably won't do another one of these until I figure out how to make the video look nice. So don't expect another one of these anytime in the future. I might get rid of the playlist on YouTube and just have this be a one-off. Because this didn't end up working out, unfortunately. Because I don't really know what to do about the camera quality. And, oh. I don't know if I can really put in time. Yeah, that's not what we want. Is this better? It's hard to see. You can see my hand really nice, but the model doesn't go very well, huh? If I turn this all the way down. No. Okay. Okay. Well, we've reached the end of my camera expertise, which is not far. Oh. Let's see. Where? Well, yeah, not much I can do. This might just be uh, what you get for using a low quality camera. Alright, well, I did all the troubleshooting for that I know how to do. So yeah, probably won't do another one of these in the near future. Yeah, even a phone, in my experience, gets better capture than this. So I'd have to set up my phone to be the capture device. Yeah, we probably will cut this off at like an hour. And then I probably won't do another one of these in the near future. Fun experiment though. I think also the camera is like really close, which doesn't help. Just because I had to make my own mount. Yeah, interesting experiment though. I thought it'd be worth a try. I'm still not gonna end stream until we're done, or until the hour is up, but yeah. So, like I said earlier, uh, these are push fit, but I still am just going to use some plastic glue. This is a really weird fit. That's really hard to get with gloves together. Normally this is something I kind of do while listening to a podcast, and it's very therapeutic. But now it's hard to talk about these when I'm also focusing really hard on doing the thing. So Kill Team. I think it's a much better game than 40K. It requires a lot less investment. Your standard army in Warhammer will be about 10 units, which means generally 10 plus boxes. But with Kill Team, it's generally one box or one box to be playable and another box to have all of the potential options. This glue is also, by the way, almost out, so it's going to take me a little while to get it out of the hose with some shaking. There's some glue. There we go. Just don't need much because it's already push fit. It's just enough that it'll make the peg stay in the hole nicer. This is a pretty nice fit on this guy. Yeah, there's a Terminator body. Liking how this is starting. I'm not really messing with the arms, so I don't... Like, if I was doing the Sergeant, I'm gonna have to nip off the arm connectors. Just so that I can... And then I'd use the plastic glue to glue it together. But I don't really need to do that here because the pose is already acceptable. Because this is just random warrior. He doesn't need to be special. Okay. Next up is 22 and 21. Now I am also going to nip the foot connector to the base because I am planning on gluing him to a Kragnos rock. He doesn't really need any height. It'll just be nice if all the Terminators are standing on the same thing, because they'll all his won't be for height. It'll just be for pose. And then that black rock with the snow that I like to put them on. Oh, by the way, I wasn't on hand cam earlier, but the idea with the Terminator Librarian that I'm working on, not part of this stream. Yeah, I really need a better camera if I'm gonna do this, because it's not focusing. It's focusing on my hand, not the model, and I don't know what to do about that. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. It was my phone, you just tap the center and it refocuses. But I don't really know how to do that in OBS. I'm not going to mess with the camera anymore. I'm basically just going to accept that there's bad camera quality and then give up on this idea in the future until I put more time in it. I can put more time and effort into making the camera nice. But anyway, here's the Terminator Librarian. I green stuffed the axe. I cut off the end here, and I put green stuff on here to make it into a scythe. He's on like a little piece of slate, and that's going to be the Kragnos rocks for everyone else. It's just like a little piece of slate like this or two. This was pretty simple, just Cantor blue for 90% of the model. And then like a little bit of Rakarth flesh for the things, some Balthazar gold for the gold, Lead Belcher for the steel, things like that. And then little details of Mephiston red. What Mournfang brown is the brown. Abaddon black for the black, and then I used Corvus black on the pipes because I'm going to lighten them up later. Yeah, it's a shame this doesn't come through very well on the camera, but that's kind of my fault, and I should have thought ahead about this, but I didn't. And then in order to make him the 1 inch taller to be a Ravener Prime, I put a base on the magnet on the base of the bottom. And I made this little thing out of cork, which was just stand up 3 pieces of cork so that it's 1 inch high. And I measured it. So then, bam, there's your Ravener Prime. Later on, I'm going to go in, and to make this look like it's flying, I'm going to put a smoke effect, which is just going to be some teddy bear stuffing on the bottom part, so it'll cover up the pillar that he's standing on. And it'll look like he's got some smoke below him as he's flying. Also, hopefully I'll use that to cover up the rim of the base. He's got a little lightning coming out of his hand, which I also modeled. I heard people use wire typically to do lightning effects. I just took little pieces of popsicle stick that I had broken off spare, because I do this, because I used those popsicle sticks on my other models, my Deathcore for wooden planks and stuff. So I decided to try something similar to use that to be lightning on the hand. You can kind of see it's sticking out. That's wood. So then I'm going to come back. This is just after I finished shading it. So I'm going to come back and brighten up the blue and clean up the blacks, which are exposed like here on his butt. And a little bit here on the gun. I think it got a little messy. So after I clean those two up, then I just go through and highlight things. So this guy is like, he's like halfway done. Most of his colors are there. It's just highlighting takes a bunch of time, and I always feel like when I put the shader, like I just applied Agrex Earthshade over the whole thing. And then I also put Nuln Oil on the side. I'm not sure if I want more on the side or not, because I kind of wanted it to look rusty, but I also have, I think just the Agrex Earthshade has done that for me. Yeah, the side looks a lot worse from this side, but it's whatever. And then I put there's a little gold line, which is where the green stuff connected, because it looks a little uggo. So I wanted to highlight it and be like, well, the side was broken and repaired at some point, and so that's why it looks like that. That someone had to like weld it back together. And then the head was just from a spare Blade Guard veteran that I had. You can't really see it well, but it's definitely not the Terminator Librarian helmet. So he was kind of the proof of concept. That I'm doing just on my own, because I wanted a break from my other project. And I liked putting a lot of effort, the idea of putting a lot of effort into a single mini. Which is kind of why I like Kill Team, because I talked earlier, like, you need like 1 to 2 boxes, which will be like, most Kill Teams are either 6 or 10 models, so you can put a lot of like love and care into each and every model, which I like doing. I'm going to get on to the next step. 22, 21. Here we go. I'm a lot less dexterous with gloves on. I think if I did this again, I also need lighting from the right-hand side. Which, like, I kind of have this issue as well in my normal painting setup, where I've been like, I should probably get another lamp in here for a while, but I just never have. I don't know where that piece went, but I'll find it eventually. Yeah, I just snip off that because I'm not plugging it directly into the base. I'm plugging it into a piece of slate. That was 21. No, that was 22. That's left. 21 here. And he also plugs into the floor? 22, 21, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Ah, there you are. I'll just keep you. I'll keep an eye on the little nubbin so I don't have random pieces of gray plastic. Actually, I'll throw it in the trash now. Trash isn't too far away from my desk. There we go. Yeah, so this one with the purity seal is his right leg that goes on my left. Yeah, I needed a higher quality camera to pull this off. No hand cam streams for a while. That's alright. You know, it's pretty meme. This is a very just chill, doing my work. Talking about why I like Kill Team. I like Kill Team a lot better than 40K. Because 40K has this really big problem of bloat. Because, like, not only are you like armies have slowly been getting more and more. It's really annoying moving like big blocks of infantry up the board because like it'll take like a few minutes just to move the unit, and it's like, well, I've moved like 20 guys and that's actually just one movement, and then I have to move the entire rest of my army, and then I have to do everything with my army, and then it becomes your turn, which feels really bad because it's just so swingy on who gets a turn or not, and it takes so long between turns, and there's not a huge amount of interaction. most of your interaction is just get not shot better, which is pretty feels bad. Whereas I like Kill Team has alternating activations, which means it's like chess. I move a piece, you move a piece. Whereas 40k is like I move my entire army and do everything with my entire army, and then you do all of your stuff with your entire army. It like Magic, except Magic the Gathering gets away with it because you're, or even like Yu-Gi-Oh is another game where that kind of thing happens, but Magic gets away with it because it has a lot of what's called instant speed interaction, which means you can do a lot of stuff on your opponent's turn, which can be both proactive and reactive. And it's interesting, and turns in Magic are relatively short. Yu-Gi-Oh, I think, gets away with it because the whole game will be like 2 turns. Like it's apparently you just win on turn 1 all the time in Yu-Gi-Oh. And then again, you also have interaction on your opponent's turn. But I feel like there's just not a lot of cool interaction. Like there's Overwatch, which is like you shoot really badly in your opponent's turn at someone who just moved, and then there's like your guys get shot less bad. Like your armor is better, and then there's a lot of bloat, I feel like, into it, not even just how the game itself plays, but how the rule systems around it. Like I think there's too many factions in 40k, including some factions that shouldn't exist, like Knights. Knights is really unfun to play against. And just forever, Knights is going to exist now because they've made the models for it, and they're never gonna like unrules Knights. But there's also just they do not put a lot of effort into balancing and making the different factions fun. So it can be very frustrating. There's also like some factions like Eldari, their like faction identity is moving fast and doing a lot of damage even if you're fragile, but like that as a faction identity is just really powerful. It's like your faction identity is being good at the two of the most important aspects of the game. Oops, right? But there's a lot of back and forth in Kill Team, and there's a lot of trade-offs. It's a lot of like trading and trading back. And even during your opponent's activation, there are usually will have most factions will have something interesting to do, and it also you won't just have like this model has a special rule where it's better if you sit it on a home objective, right? Everything has its own unique special rules, which I like because it makes every guy in the army feel special in the Kill Team. So far in Kill Team, I've played a bunch of games this edition. I played a little bit last edition. I've mostly been playing Hordes. I played a bit of Death Corps, but I've since moved into Inquisitorial Agents. And I really like IA because they're a big Horde faction and they have a lot of interaction with people. They really reward you for knowing the game, which feels fun. C25, 26. Here's 25. Sorry if I'm not holding this up to the camera properly. I'm just kind of getting in the groove of doing the modeling. And part of me is like, Well, the resolution's terrible anyway, so you can barely see what I'm doing. So, what does it matter, you know? C26. This was 25. This is just normal 6. This is 26. Okay. This is a weird split of pieces. So, Raveners is a kill team I haven't really played because like I typically play IA, I said, which is like a shooty horde team. Horde because you have 11 bodies. Shooty because a lot of your big damage operatives do so in shooting as opposed to melee. So Raveners is kind of the opposite of IA. Lowest model count in the game at 5. And then you're very melee focused. So I was kind of interested in them as because they're kind of the opposite of what I normally do. I kind of want that perspective of what do the teams I'm not playing as typically try and do. Also, IA is pretty. A lot of people are saying they're very strong right now. They're just very difficult to play. So it'd be nice to me. Like people are saying, IA is S tier. To me, the ideal team is like A tier or like B tier. You don't want them to be bad, and you don't want them to be just okay. You want them to be good, just a little good though, not like broken overpowered. I want to feel like I'm winning the game because like my team does interesting things that I took advantage of in an interesting way. Not, well, this isn't balanced. And a lot of IA's tools right now of why they're in S tier is just they do well into the other S tier factions. Because like even before the last balance patch, they didn't get any buffs. It's just teams that were hyper oppressive into them got nerfed really bad. And you do well into the two remaining Goremongers and Sanctifiers. I haven't actually played the Sanctifier matchup, but I think you just have one of the more interesting, or like some of the more interesting power counterplays because of absolute authority counters other people's abilities to do things with, when they rely on poise to do things, and denunciation really messes with people because it not only prevents them from activating, which means you can trade. You can put off, like if you're offering 2 trades TP2, you can put off doing that trade and do another trade instead. And then you have 2 trades where you have the advantage. Or it's also good because like it stops, it's not just activations it stops, it also stops actions, so you can stop people from doing out of sequence movement. And there's just not a lot of teams that have that ability, and that's really why they're so powerful. Is just denunciation and AA are two of the best defensive tools in the game, and they have decent enough operatives to take advantage of it. I say decent enough, but like the Kazrakan, generally you take Kazrakan. Hitting on threes, plasma guns or melta guns are really good. But like outside of those, you have this weird suite of like melee operatives who only have 7 wounds and don't really have defensive enough profile to stay in melee. They don't have the wounds to just eat hits all day. And a lot of their abilities that let them ignore damage aren't super effective and don't really fix that problem. Of like, at the end of the day, you're still a 7 wound operative. So whoever you're hitting in melee, if they're like 7 or 8 wounds, you're trading with them. If you're lucky, it's 10 wounds. 23, 24. Here's 24. 23. But maybe that's just me being bad at the game, because I'm not exactly a kill team expert. I just like playing it because it doesn't feel bloated like 40k. You don't need a bajillion models. That's really annoying because I'm going to have to remember that piece 12 is about to fall off. Yeah, we wanted 23. Yeah, so I hadn't gotten a close look yet for if I was going to have to do a chain fist proxy. But it doesn't look too difficult. I have spare chain swords. Basically what I would end up having to do is just keep forgetting to put the cap back on the plastic glue. Love inhaling those glue fumes. What can I say? But looking here, I think it's basically, the chain fist is basically the hilt of a chainsword goes here. Like right here on the side of the fist. Coming out of this thing. That's the difference between a chain fist and a power fist. This is Mr. Gun hand up. Yeah. We had Mr. Bruiser's kind of got his hand reaching out. And I thought that was just a better pose for Mr. Wrecker. Paint it silver to make him the veteran from the Death Watch, who served in Death Watch. That's the idea. Because technically all the Terminators are veterans, right? But you want super veteran. Why is he a super veteran? Served in the Death Watch. I don't know. I don't think there's any upscaled Death Watch Terminator shoulders yet. So I would just have to paint this silver. Because I don't... even if there are Death Watch shoulder pads that you could just put on top of here, I keep holding this out further than I should. I need to hold it closer to my chest. Like, if I could shave that off and put a different shoulder pad on top, I don't think it's worth the effort. I think you get the idea across just fine, just painting the shoulder silver. Because also, I don't want to... I like keeping the chapter symbol on the other arm, and I don't want to get rid of the crux. This is the crux Terminatus, which is the special force field thingy for Terminators. Which you'd have to put this on this shoulder somehow. Because that's how they do it in the Death Watch. Where... okay. So the flat part of the fist goes down. The fist is like a big letter T. The top of the T faces the arm. This piece is like this because I think this is what gets subbed out for a chain fist potentially in the normal kit. Somehow I'm pulling it off. Alright, there's the arms. So it's just put the arms on and then the head. I'll probably call it for tonight once I do that. I enjoy these Terminators. I'm looking forward to doing to painting them. Yep, that arm's a pretty nice fit. Again, I just prefer gluing it in place, even if it's not necessary, because this is a push fit mini. I usually don't, this is something unusual, I usually don't glue minis to their bases until after I painted them, because I'll frequently be like, well, I want to put him on top of whatever basing material I put down. But these guys, it's easy enough to be like, this is a piece of slate, it's going on top of the slate, and I can hold it there. I don't need anything special. Or even like, this is the snow goes on top of the foot. Yeah, we gotta do the test fit first because I don't know where it's supposed to rest, and once I put the glue in, it melts the plastic, so I can't tell anymore. Yeah, his arm is down, which is a lot more passive. It's less active. He looks like he's gonna shoot the gun, but his arm doesn't really look ready to do anything. Whereas like the other guy, this guy who I want to make the veteran, this is a lot more active of a pose. He looks like he's doing something with his hand. Whereas here, he looks like he's shooting, but then his other arm is just to the side. So I think I made the right call making this guy, the warrior. Because it's pretty basic. This is as basic as you get for a Terminator. Yeah, and little divots like that will get looked over once you put the paint down. Don't know why his hand isn't quite straight. Yeah, unless I get some kind of like explosive response to this for some reason, this is probably the one stream of this I'm doing. C27. Yep, down here. And then I ain't gotta do nothing fancy to the head. There we go. Cool. Let's trim the cut marks. As for like doing these as like in pieces, it's really not necessary for these guys. They're pretty big. You're not gonna have a hard time reaching any of the details. Like even with the librarian, the only detail I really had a hard time reaching was the pendant that he's holding. Everything else you get in at pretty smoothly. And I don't think there's anything more complex on these guys that I'd have trouble reaching that you would need. Because the problem with doing things in parts is that the more parts you do, the longer it takes to paint by like a significant margin. So I would suggest, if you're like, I was really scared when I started of messing things up and doing things and like getting at hard to reach places and stuff like that. What I would say is just get comfortable with painting awkward angles because it's not that big a deal. I like doing my best, the best job I can on every model I do, but there are limits to what's reasonable. Like putting the head on here probably will make it really difficult to fill in the area around his head. God, jeez. But honestly, that's not a big deal. Should have dry fit this first. This is really hard to do in these gloves that don't want to stay tight. Is he just looking? Okay. It is not straight on, so that's why, that's what was messing me up. Okay. Okay, that's the plastic bit of Terminator 1. Yeah, because no matter what you do, that it's going to be black in there because of the lighting. And it doesn't really matter if you can't really hit the sides of the head too well, because the head should be a simple color. And if it's not, what are you doing with your life? Okay, so don't need to sprue the instructions anymore. Now we're going to put them on a base. Oop, bumped my hand cam. Okay. So I got a big bag of slate here, and I'm going to put it in my mouth. That's probably too big for him. I'm just getting out a few pieces to look at what I'm looking for. That was... I just accept. I kind of like this. It's not practical. It would be a nice base decoration for a bigger guy. That's not practical to use. So he's supposed to be stood on like flat ground. He's going like this. I'm just getting an idea for how he stands on the base. So I need something... How the heck? You're supposed to... This guy's back foot and this guy's back foot. You're supposed to pose him like this. This is how you push him into the base. It's really awkward. It's gotta have like the backs of his feet next to these two holes. Okay. Interesting idea. Instead of doing that, let's do something like this. Imagine these damn things is a pain in my butt. Yeah, something like this. Feels nice. Keep nudging the camera. Sorry again. God this is hard enough. At least I kind of found something I like pretty quickly. Yeah, this was the opposite problem of being too short. So this kind of fixes our Ravener problem, where like let me get my Spider-Man ruler. This will add half a millimeter or half a centimeter. It's like 5 mil. It's like here, which is basically what we want. Okay. So, how did I have it earlier? Did you get flipped over? No. Something like this. Yeah, it's something like this. What might be ideal is I glue the rock to the foot first, which I don't usually do. I usually just glue it to the base and then set him down. So notice I'm using super glue and not plastic glue now. And this is because I am no longer bonding plastic to plastic. Now I just gotta hold that glue, puff them sweet glue fumes. Okay. Ooh. Oh, no, Mr. Handcam. It's my worst fear. Potentially doxing myself. I think I only showed the screen, which doesn't have anything I'm not already showing on it. I think what we want in the end is something like this. Keep craning my head to see a better angle. I think I didn't get enough glue. I think this is the right idea, but I didn't get enough glue on the foot. Nope, looks like we got stuck. Cool. It'll come off pretty easy if I needed. Now, trying to make sure the rocks don't really go off the base too much. His arm's always going to be sticking out, so that's not really the concern. Yep, I think that's it. Or I just didn't put it nearly enough. It's hard to tell what the contact points are on a rock, you know? I usually don't use gloves, but I do like that my gloves are meaning my fingers aren't getting super glued on them. See, like there, I just would have had to take a shower to get the glue off my finger. I think that's an acceptable amount of overhang. Yeah. Ah, damn. Yeah, what's really happening is just this one on the right. I might just flip it around. There's a lot more of the super glue on the base from this side. Yeah, there's not a lot of contact. Oop, and the foot's coming off. Good. That's actually desirable because I thought it was loose earlier. Oh, that's way too much, but it's better than not sticking at all. Which was kind of the problem earlier. Yeah. Now he'll stick, I'm pretty sure, to the rock really nice. Jeez. Gotta take that rock off that. Now he's got kind of a flat surface. I think I can get him to dry like this. As long as the... Yeah, that's the problem. At least if it accidentally dries to the to this, we get a base. All right. I don't think I have to. Jeez, just get on the rock, buddy. Okay. I don't think I have to hold him there anymore, but I do have to wait a minute for him to dry because he does not want to stay on there. Yeah, I like these Terminator models. I like how they're posed. I know these are basic mono pose guys. I really like Terminators. They're cool. I like I like these models. Looking forward to using them potentially. Yeah, at this point, I think this streaming it is scuffed. I don't really have the camera to make it look nice. So probably no hand cam streams in the future. Maybe I'll do just one-off little things like once a month in place of this, like the first week of the month, just random game. Just because that way it puts me up to 4 streams a month. These gloves are also really uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time because not only are they loose on my fingertips, they're really hot, and my hands are naturally very sweaty. I see now why typically VTubers use like cloth instead of plastic gloves. Oh, looks like the rock took to the base as well. I'll let it dry, but usually, yeah, usually in situations like this, I'll rock it a little bit afterwards and reapply it. This is nice though. I like, there's that little passageway in between the rocks. That's a fun place because I'll paint the rocks black and then I'll put snow texture paint down. I like the little crevasse between the rocks that he's standing on because I can put snow through there, and then the black really breaks it up nice. I might even get a little piece of cork later on and like put a little cork rock sticking out. Jeez. Yeah. So this rock is sticking to the base now. Ugh. No. Yeah, it's because this foot is flat, but this part he's trying to stick to ain't. So here's two things. First off, bunch there, then a bunch there. Then I'm just gonna set it down and leave it for the night. I call that a stream. Because really what this needs is just to dry. To dry. There we go. Yeah, because at least the bottom rock is sticking. Because that... Jeez. Why are you sliding all over the place, man? You got super glue on you. I'm going to leave that there overnight, and I think that'll dry. Yep, and that's been about an hour, so I think I'm going to call that for tonight. Thank you for dropping by and watching if you did, or if you watched the VOD, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I like putting together the models. I like the little back and forth of... I really enjoy... Basing is my favorite part of doing it. I really enjoy putting the posed guy on the base, and then eventually putting the texture paint down. But yeah, sorry the hand cam stream didn't go so nice. I have to go. Hold on, I'm gonna turn off the hand cam for my own sanity. Yeah, sorry it's a shorter stream. We got the one basic Terminator done. That's something. Thanks for dropping by. Have a good night.